Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Japan back in Action Style CS, but something else. It's always so nice to get something for free just because you showed up to an event, right? Whether it's a promotional giveaway to getting a little bit of reward for being a fan, influencers, celebrities, businesses, and corporations will occasionally host little events and give out freebies to foster goodwill and rapport with their fans or customers, and to draw in a crowd. So earlier this week, KaiCenat decided to throw a little bit of a giveaway. For those of you who don't know who KaiCenat is, he's a Twitch streamer and a YouTuber known for his comedic takes and content being the least bit hilarious. He was more recently billed as the most subscribed Twitch streamer of all time after he surpassed Ludwig's record back in February during a subathon. And being the least bit gracious, thankful for this, in a show of generosity, he'd announced that he'd be rolling up on New York City proper to dispense good cheer and fun along the way.
We're giving away PCs! We're giving away... Hold on! We will be giving away PS5!
Giving that back to the community. He'd be bringing PS5s, webcams, gaming PCs, and various other electronics that would be, handed out to the people that showed up. We just wanted to share in the prosperity, Kai just decided that he was going to roll on down there himself, and he'd be hosting the event. No planning, no event organizing, not even security. Just he, himself, and everyone he brought with him, there to address the fans and anybody else that showed up. You see the problem I'm posing, right? Allow me to reiterate, there was very little in the way of logistical considerations, let alone crowd control. Through the power of clout, Kai would be doing this giveaway on his own terms, without such unnecessary things as event planning, organizing, or anything like that, let alone renting a venue. This was just out on the streets in broad daylight, after all. He was just gonna show up with all his little goodies so he could go out and play Santa Claus for a day. And I'm sure that everyone that showed up formed a neat, orderly, single-file line to see their favorite Twitch streamer of all time, give them a high five, receive their free thing, and be on their way. Oh wait, I'm sorry, that's not actually what happened, at all. I'm gonna be straight up honest with y'all, everybody that showed up would eventually go apeshit and started destroying everything in sight. But why? Well, let's just go ahead and break it down piece by piece. Like I said before, there was no event organization, no event organizers, and no planning, whether in logistics, security, nothing. There was no consideration for crowd control in case a fuck ton of people showed up. And let me assure you, a fuck ton of people did show up. This whole event wasn't even officially sanctioned, as in no official permit was registered or acquired from the city of New York for permission to do any of this. And this is all taking place in inner New York City, more specifically Union Square in Manhattan. During the day, while other city residents are going about their own business, suddenly a massive influx of people come bomb rushing into this specific point in the city. What do you think's gonna happen? But who showed up? Well, who do you think? Bunch of youngbloods and 20-somethings. I'm honestly just imagining them being like a bunch of cringy-ass Fortnite players who are all doing like the Fortnite dances and screeching about Fortnite. But nah, that's not exactly what happened. So, as far as the buildup of the actual group of people that started showing up, they started to coalesce at about 1:30 p.m., with the group numbering in the thousands by 3 p.m. The giveaway was set for 4 p.m. Anytime you get that many people packed in a densely populated area, there's a sensation of herd mentality where members of the group may participate in destructive behavior because others of the group are doing it. At first, the crowd was, Zoomers, kids, young adults. They were happy to see Kai, and Kai was happy to see them. But as more and more people began to show up, and the crowd turned from a crowd into a tidal wave of people, it's when the growth of this crowd began to exponentially grow, that's when the trouble began.
It's over 9,000! What, 9,000? There's no way that can be right!
Worse yet, you had what appeared to be agitators amongst the crowd that weren't really there to see Kai, let alone give a shit about him. They were just attracted to the spectacle and, came at their own free will. Now, as far as the violence is concerned, people began pushing and shoving at first. They all wanted to see KaiCenat, and they all wanted to, see their boy. The problem with that is, instead of PS5s being thrown into the crowd, the only thing being thrown here were fists. Fights began to break out, people were getting to be the least bit out of control, and police began to peer on the sidelines, monitoring the whole situation, and Cenat, in a bid to try to de-escalate the situation, actually called out to everybody, just being like, everybody who's out there, make sure you're all safe, because we aren't doing nothing until it's safe.
No! I want to get it away! So in order for us to do that, we gotta chill.
Well, that didn't de-escalate the situation, as the crowd soon began to grow violent. Sensing danger, Kai actually tried to make a clean getaway. Maybe get away from the crowds, get some air, reassess the situation, but he could barely get away as people began to crawl up on top of his SUV. And as he tried to drive away, in this footage, you can literally see people seemingly holding on to the SUV, like a horde of zombies. I haven't seen footage this intense since World War Z. And even after fleeing the scene, there's a bunch of people just hanging onto the back of the SUV for a free ride. One actually falls off. Don't worry, he luckily faced no serious injuries. But damn! Even worse yet, kids on mopeds and dirt bikes were actually chasing the SUV down, tailing Kai. So, KaiCenat leaves. He's just like, yo, this shit be too intense, dog, I'm out, peace. Did the crowd simply evaporate and, return to the ether from whence it came? Hell no! The problems were just beginning, okay? Now you've got an unruly mob of young people in a densely urban environment, unsupervised. Left to their own devices, people started vandalizing vehicles, dancing on top of cars, stealing from delivery trucks, destroying cars. I haven't seen this much carnage since the Freddie Gray riots here in Baltimore. It's at this point the police start to show up in force in full-plate riot armor to try and control the situation. New York's finest. Blatant disregard for the cops led to fights between the kids and the cops. See, there was a nearby construction site near the 14th Street subway station that was pilfered for anything useful. Paint cans, rocks, bottles, and other trash that could be thrown. And tools, shovels, could be used as bludgeons. Cops actually had to shield themselves with pieces of plywood to block this merciless onslaught of beer bottles, rocks, paint cans, and shit like that being thrown at them. The problem was no longer just confined to just Union Square. This began to spill out into the surrounding area. Various adjoining streets would see offshoots of kids. Various businesses in the area having problems dealing with this absolute mass of people who were loitering in front of restaurants and businesses. One CVS getting stormed for bottles of water and food. This was becoming something truly biblical, like a swarm of locusts had descended upon Manhattan proper.
On New Year's Eve, these wretched splicers come streaming out of the poorhouses and stormed the proverbial barricades. The dead rot in the streets, and Johnny and Janie Citizen are lined up round the block for plasmids. Anything to help fend off the rabble. We were done over. Then splicers come screaming out the woodwork, burping fire, spitting ice. Demons out of the Bible they were. I've never seen nothing like it. It wasn't a business he was building. It was an army. We can get on top of this. We can. Here's what we do.
Cars, storefronts, and food carts were absolutely destroyed. Worse yet, fireworks began firing off, some of which injured some of the crowd. Now, the police obviously ordered the crowd to cease and desist, to disperse, and that no charges would be filed if they left peacefully. And it wasn't until about 5 o'clock that they actually began to get a handle on the situation, and the chaos began to evaporate at about 6 o'clock. Right around dinner time, Mom must have made tendies that night, so all the kids could head on home to trade in their good boy points for tendies made by Mom. Well, with all that said, let's just get back to KaiCenat. What happened to him? Well, one problem was solved. He managed to get himself out of a bad situation being surrounded by a bloodthirsty pack of his own fans. One problem down, but that didn't stop the long dick of the law catching up with him later. The police actually arrested him and charged him with participation in a riot, a felony, incitement of a riot, a misdemeanor, and unlawful assembly, another misdemeanor. Now, these are some fairly serious allegations and charges being levied for this little stunt. And I'll bet he just goes to short, he shows up in court being all well, I didn't mean to. He's already been released from police custody, by the way, and given a court date. New York was essentially shut down for a day because of all this. Essentially. Multiple businesses were damaged, multiple vehicles on the street near the area were vandalized, damaged property, both public and private, were vandalized or damaged. 65 people have been arrested, over half of which were teenagers, kids, Fortnite players. City streets were blocked off at the adjoining streets near where the event took place. Multiple police officers were injured, as well as at least 4 civilians. Multiple people in the crowd were hurt, presumably. And like the police chief comes out, right, in a press conference after the fact, Jeffrey Madre, he's like addressing the whole thing, calling upon parents to get involved. Come down here, grab their kids, take them back home.
It was quickly determined that an influencer was posting on social media about showing up to Union Square and was encouraging all of his followers to come to the park. There was some posts also about giving away some gaming systems. At approximately 3 p.m., the post went viral and thousands of people began to arrive at Union Square. Well, this speaks to the power of social media and the danger of social media. We do monitor social media. When I go back later on this evening, I will have an after action to determine exactly what our steps were. We can't allow this to happen again in the future.
We can't allow this to happen again in the future.
We're not against young people having a good time. We're not against young people gathering. But it can't be to this level where it's dangerous. A lot of people got hurt today.
Chief, are you going to charge KaiCenat?
Yes. The influencer is charged. He's going to be charged with multiple counts, at least 2 counts of inciting a riot, unlawful assembly, and a few other charges.
Dude's voice honestly reminds me of Agent Stone from Twisted Metal Black. Very deep, very impactful. He comes off as the perfect police chief. But he's still a boomer, and comes off as the least bit out of touch in his assessment of the whole situation. In any case, this whole thing started with an Instagram post and an image on his website promoting the fucking giveaway at 4 o'clock p.m. The riot ended at about 6 p.m. So for a period of about 2 hours, Manhattan proper had been rocked by this mass influx of kids and riotous ruffians. All because KaiCenat wanted to reward his fans with PS5s, electronics, and other giveaways. And he didn't even know the power of his own clout. Now, I'm sure that New York City don't give a shit about all that. And you know what they say. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, yo. No good deed goes unpunished. In any case, I honestly think Kai's kind of a cool guy, I mean, look at that Letterman jacket. His fashion sense is on point. He's known for having high-octane energy, Twitch streamer energy, and being a little bit bombastic in his takes. But I don't think any of that's going to really help him in court. Let's hope he gets some leniency here and isn't charged above and beyond what we considered fair. Some people would actually say that Kai's actions were taken with reckless abandon. You ever heard of a little something called unintended consequences? I'm not necessarily blaming him for all of this or any of this, but what did he think was going to happen? I don't think Kai really considered just how many people were aware of this and would actually show up to the event, given how open and accessible the location truly was. I mean, TLDR, people like free stuff, which is going to attract a crowd. And when people have the expectation of getting free stuff, and they don't get free stuff, that's where they get upset and violent. And here, in the year of our Lord and Savior 2023, it feels like riots are just kind of normalized. They can materialize seemingly out of nowhere, because there's a lot of public, social unrest is the best way to call it, but all over the world. This is not a confined to America sort of situation. It's an urban problem. It's a city problem, okay? Because obviously, cities are where, that's the densely populated areas. It stands to reason that that's where you're going to see riotous ruffians like this just materialize out of anywhere. And it's not confined to, kids or adults or anything like that. Anybody can be participant in a riot. So let this be a lesson to you all and others out there. You want to do an event? Go through the proper channels. Get yourself a permit. Employ a team of people that can safely monitor the situation and keep a handle on it. Rent a security firm if need be. And know your audience. Because, hey, people, like events, can be the least bit unpredictable. You gotta plan for shit like this. You can't just wing it and expect it to go the way you wanted it to. I'm always going to remember this day as the day that a swarm of locusts, Fortnite players, stormed New York City proper, Manhattan for a day, and ruled the streets like the trash they are, right after they destroyed Tomato Town. Nah, I kid. Let's hope KaiCenat gets off with a slap on the wrist or something like that and promises never to do something like this again after a stern talking to. But is KaiCenat truly even at fault here? He doesn't have direct control over his fans. His fans, by and large, like on an individualized level, in spite of the fact that they were in a massive crowd of people, they are still individuals that are capable of like knowing the differences between right and wrong, things like that. They can have considerations on their own on whether something is a good idea or a bad idea. However, when you are facing that many people in a densely urbanized area, obviously people's minds tend to change when they're in the crowd. Herd behavior, alright? They feel invincible. That's why these kids were taking on the cops, because there were so many of them. You know, strength in numbers is the order of the day, and they feel like they can do anything and get away with anything. And the cops even, like, out of sympathy did say, hey, listen, if you leave peacefully, we're not going to press charges, we're not going to arrest you, but you start doing shit, we're going to crack the fucking baton down. And I'm glad that the police actually acted with restraint. They didn't come down with, like, fucking batons beating kids and shit like that, breaking out the water cannons or like tear gas. That would have turned this whole thing into even more of a shit show than it already was. But at the same time, it definitely did cause a little bit of a disruption, and it did like freaking paralyze that part of New York for at least a period of a day. So as far as whether KaiCenat, like his intentions, like from my angle, I actually sympathize a lot with Kai, because he wouldn't have known that the crowd would have reacted in that way. But at the same time, it's just like, what did you think was going to happen? Free stuff is going to attract a multitude of different people. A multitude of different people that could be good, bad, or the ugly. You don't even know. And when it actually happens, well, New York City ain't going to give a shit on whether his intentions were truly good, bad, or anything in between. They're going to look at the property damage that occurred. They're going to look at the hundreds upon thousands of dollars it cost the city of New York in like police manpower, like additional security for that given area, the fact that people had to don riot gear and enter the fray in trying to apprehend these young hooligans and like try to restore peace, law, and order. They're not going to give a shit whether KaiCenat. It's like, I didn't mean to. So I'm starting to wonder how much he's going to be fined, if there's going to be any prison time. Hopefully not, because I don't think he deserves prison time. A fine, I can definitely understand. You know, that was the least bit disruptive, considering the fact that Kai didn't even get the proper paperwork in the form of a permit or, like, you know, legal precedent, let alone, like, letting the city of New York know that this event was even going to take place. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully they don't throw the book at him, but you know, considering that he's facing a felony and 2 misdemeanors, it doesn't look good for our boy Kai. All we can really do now is wait and see what happens in court. In any case, I think that's just going to about do it for this video. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Till next time, guys, take care and peace. Hope you all have a better one.
Go have some fun.
Hey fellas, thanks for watching the video today. I really hope you all enjoyed it. Would you care to hit that like button to subscribe for more? You know I really appreciate that, right? And hey, if you're in the mood for gaming, why don't you check me out on Twitch sometime? Link in the description below. Anyway, till next time guys, take care and peace. I hope you all have a better one.